Hi, so let's see. I have been working on a method that I've figured out on my own, just kind of trying out some different things, reading up on it. And it's a method of creating a children's picture book, like a digital one, an ebook, and not having to use expensive software or going out and learning how to use Photoshop. Basically, I found a way that you can do it using pencil, paper, and your phone. And that's it. That's all you need. So I wanted to kind of walk you through the process and just like what I've learned, what I've experienced from the whole thing, and just maybe it'll give you some ideas. And it's not even something you have to use just for digital picture books. You can use it for, say, you want to start an online comic strip, or you just want to do like a picture with some text or something that you thought of. Just something because you feel like you want to get out there and kind of just be creative, do some art, but you think that maybe you have to learn all this expensive software. Well, that's exactly what I didn't want to do. I've done all that stuff in the past, and I knew with the way phones are right now and how high quality pictures are made, I didn't want to have to rely on scanners or software. So this is kind of the process of what I've discovered along the way. So this right here is first going to just be a little intro into just figuring out how to lay it out. We're going to start simple first. So when you go, I want to make something like a book, you don't just go, okay, here we go, boom. No, we're going to lay it out a little bit. So let's do a little background on what that might be. So the intro to creating digital picture books is kind of like just a beginner's way of doing it. That's why we're using our phone. So what's great about creating digital picture books, the technology is easy to acquire these days. Like I said, you can use just your phone. Most of it can be done with just your camera, but there are apps out there that are free that are far more advanced than they used to be, at least when I first started out. So you'll be able to download and use these tools that I have today, that I've used. And I'll tell you what they are. There are things like there's Auto Sketchbook is the one that I use the most. Plus, if you have a Google account, when you take your photos, you can back them up to your photos. That's what they call them. They call them Google Photos. So the whole thing is just real simple to do. So if you do this, it's just a way to get started and see what's possible. Just to see if you even like it. So you're not going to be spending a lot of money. You can try it out, and if it's too much or it's just too involved for you, you learn. So it's also a way to just start testing the waters for bigger things. So once you do this and it kind of makes sense to you and you start making your first book and you make your second, you may want to advance and go, okay, now I do want to start using Photoshop or Illustrator or other types of software on the computer. When you start doing that, what you've learned here will help you not be overwhelmed when you start using those apps. You'll kind of get a feel for the way that they work. Now, another thing too is as you start making the drawings and putting the text in and things like that, you'll kind of start to experience creative design. You'll really get a feel for like how you need to lay it out. When you first start, you're going to just draw a picture in the middle, and then you'll try to fit the text in, and maybe you'll want to be able to move it around. And as you go along, you'll be able to visualize it in your head a little bit more and kind of get more of a feel for how the page should be laid out, or trying it from different angles or different perspectives. And that's all something you learn just by doing. And that's the best part about doing this and starting out. Also, and this is the way it worked for me, when I first started out, I was an at-home dad, and I was just looking for something to do with my kids. Now, I originally was going to go into animation and go to school for art, and then I never did. And as I was home, software started coming out. Like I ended up getting Flash for Christmas once, and I wanted to get back into drawing and animation again. So I started making comic books and cartoons with my kids. They would write them, and I would draw them, and they were awful when I first started, and that's the beauty of it. And I got better as I went along. It had been a while since I had done such a thing. Plus, I was learning the software as I went along, and that's what this is going to do. This is going to teach you how to use the software, how to think differently, how to find tools that will accomplish what you need. And as I did that, my mind started adjusting to different types of ways to approach things. And like one thing that I did was I wanted to put the comics or the animation on the internet. So then I had to learn how to make a website, or at least where to build one. And I started using Blogger, which was a Google service, and it was free, and it had templates. So I didn't have to do anything except learn how to upload the stuff. Well, once I learned how to upload, then I was like, I want to learn how to customize it. And all this would, and then I customized it, and now I build websites for a living. So it's because I got in there, I tried things out, I was using them as an experiment for other things, and I learned as I went along. I broke stuff and then learned why it broke and then fixed it again. And now that's what I do for a living. So it's all about starting and learning how to use something by experience rather than just jumping in and saying, I'm going to do this. Build it for yourself and then learn as you go along and see what happens. So what you can learn from creating a digital book, as I said before, art direction. You'll learn layout and design and maybe color schemes. You'll see what works, what doesn't, what looks good to you, what doesn't look good, and it'll just start to make a lot more sense as you go along. Process. You'll see how you should come up with ideas, how you should lay them out, how to lay out the book and create what they call a dummy, which I always think is a hilarious thing to call a kind of like a blueprint of your book. But a dummy just to see, like, as you go through, and this is all before actually printing it, like what works, what doesn't, what parts are too long, what parts don't make sense. And this is all before you start making the book. And then when you add the color and other things, you learn how to layer stuff, you learn how to print it, you learn how to process it. This is all things that you learn that can help you with creating your book. Entry-level software skills. Now, since we're using mobile stuff, mobile apps to do this, or just drawing, you have to learn how to digitally transfer the drawings to the application. And in the application, you have to learn how to apply settings to them. You get to learn what layers are, what layering is, different types of layer formats for being able to color on top of a drawing so that the drawing still shows through. Lots of other things. And those are like what I mentioned before, that this applies to when you start to move to bigger software things. It's all the same basic concept. We're just going to be working with it in its simplest form, without a lot of menu options and a lot of things to confuse us. We have a couple of choices, but later on they can be applied to some of the more expensive types of software. And again, as I said, this is all part of it: design, drawing, colors, layout. So even just with the, I want to say, organic ways of drawing, when you're penciling and sketching and thinking of colors, these are all things that you'll process not only on paper, but also when you put text on the picture or in the application itself. And with the story that I said before, this is a skill you can reuse and build from. I learned how to do websites because I learned how to use software, and I learned how to use a user interface, and just having to root through how something works and figure it out. There's actually a lot of similarities between these, between software and websites and drawing and construction of creative objects and things. So now remember, this is all going to be learning. This is beginner stuff. This isn't about publishing your book. This is about creating and seeing if you like it and rooting around. And I mean, this is a process on your phone. It is going to be something you can publish. It is going to be high quality, but it's something, consider it something you throw away. Nobody even asked to see it. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is just knowing how to get started. And it's a way to just kind of get rid of the two things that would hold you back, like self-doubt or the fact that you think it might be too hard. This is just all to try stuff out. So what you need to bring here is just an open mind and an open heart with the idea of like, I can do this. And if it gets confusing, feel free to ask me what you don't understand, what more you'd like to know. Tell me what's missing or where I lose you. Why this will work for you? Because if you have a phone and you know how to post to Facebook or take a picture, you're pretty much halfway there. And I'll walk you through the easy or the hard stuff. And that's the part where we'll focus more. Why this won't work for you? Just basically, if you are looking to publish your book, this is probably going to be too much of a beginner lesson for you. This is really just for those that want to do it but don't know how. All right, so here we're going to go with this module, which is going to kind of be intro into design. So we're not going to start with anything hard today. This is really just going to be about you have an idea for a book and you want to sketch out some stuff. So here's some of the things that I do. It's about visually designing your book to get started. I've made several different types of books with my kids. I told you some of them have been comic books, some of them have been storybooks, and cartoons. And these are experiences that I've applied to this process from things I've learned along the way from much harder processes. So first I'm going to cover some basics in brainstorming, then drill down into setting up your artwork, matching it with writing a story, and finally the technical stuff and how to tie it all together. That's what all these modules are going to be. But right now we're going to just do an intro to design. This is not only meant for your kids, but to advance your skill set along the way, like it did for me. So let's talk about the design. One thing I like to do is think of book references. So for the book that I recently published, I was thinking about a book I found at my grandmother's. It was called, the full name escapes me, but I believe it was How to Walk with Duck Feet. It was a Dr. Seuss book, and occasionally he would have different artists draw his books. And this one was about a kid with a vivid imagination who would imagine that he was different types of animals. And one of them was he would walk with duck feet. And I always liked the way that it was drawn and the way that it was colored. So I kind of looked it up and wanted to do it in that style. One of the things I discovered looking back on it is the coloring style was actually very messy and very minimal. Like he wouldn't color in the lines. He would just kind of give a hint or a little splotch of color, like in the face, like in the front around there, and wouldn't color it all the way out. And I thought that was really neat. So I applied that technique there. So one thing you can do is think about books that you remember. And the easiest way to kind of get started is use them as a reference, keep them open, and it kind of helps you. Instead of starting from scratch, you just sort of mimic what they're doing. And again, I said this is just a way to start out. So don't worry about infringement or anything like that. This is if you don't even have to show anybody if you don't want to. And then also, why do you remember them? Maybe you can apply that sort of thing to what you're making. What about it stood out? What was it the story? Or much like I said, I liked the coloring technique and the drawing style. So apply those things from the references that you have. It's about getting yourself inspired. You look at those and start thinking, I can make that. That's not that hard. So it'll get you going. And think about the books that... other things and why the books you saw growing up were amazing to you and why they're still relevant today and people show them to their kids. So getting into the style, what about those books? As I said, you look through the references, kind of get a bunch of the books that you like, and what about them speak to you? Now, For me, it was the coloring. For you, is it the story? Is it the drawing? Kind of just think about it and maybe emulate that in your book. Is it the motion of the drawings? Is it the layout? And then also think about the spacing. Does the story build right away? Is there something in between? Is there really only something that happens in the beginning and the end? Just all things to look at. The point of view of the book, the character, all things to consider while you're writing. So for today, all you need to get started, a pencil, some paper, and a place to do it. And maybe even a discussion. If you want to involve your kids, you could just kind of talk about like, hey, what are some funny stories that you have? Just something to get you inspired and build your book from that. The different types of thing you can do is maybe talk about characters. Should the book be character driven? Should it just be a short story that involves nameless characters that just happen to have a situation? Do you want it to rhyme? I actually have a hard time doing the rhyming thing, but a lot of books seem to do it. A fun story that maybe your kids told you or that they come up with. Something short, something sweet, or maybe something that actually happened. Drawing from something like, say you posted something on Facebook like, oh, here's a funny thing my kid did today. Well, why not make an 8-page story that kind of spells out the whole thing that led up to the funny statement that they made? So that also kind of makes it more meaningful, and I think people will really adapt to that and kind of, I don't know, I think they'll find it more interesting. Another idea that I had, and I kind of want to try this, I have an example in some of the things I'm going to show you today, a joke book. If you don't have a story, why not just think of some one-off jokes and draw a picture that kind of shows what that joke meant. Also think about what the audience is for, the age types, the interest and attention span of the people that you're writing the book for, if you are going to do something more with it. If you're just going to show it to your family, think about who, what your kids' interests are and what their attention span is and what might be interesting to them. Then there's also learning level and humor level. Books should be something where it advances them, so you don't want to necessarily talk down. Maybe you should add something that's going to be teaching them a little bit more, something you know they're learning about in school. And, of course, adding humor is always something that helps, that they find funny. So today we're going to just do storyboarding. Now, storyboarding is kind of quick sketching the ideas of the book as you're writing them. So it's kind of writing with pictures. Now, you search for scenes in books or magazines, helps you keep on task with each other. Have fun drawing. Have fun trying to draw a situation. It also, you can just do motion lines. I mean, this is really just laying out the pictures. Nothing here is going to be used. This is all just for reference, and you can look at it and go, oh, yeah, that's the way it should look. So no exact drawing is needed. The outcome is to learn and get ideas and be inspired, help you progress your book. Instead of starting from the first page to the end, you could start drawing these and then later on go, oh, that part doesn't work, and then you can just throw it away because it was a quick sketch. And you can always look for a reference to help you draw what you need. Just do a Google image search for, say, somebody jumping or something, and you don't know how to do that, even if it's a stick figure. Well, just find a reference that you can do. Like right here, I found these frogs. I have 2 different examples of a frog. Both of them are kind of jumping. One of them's on one leg. I think he's in mid-jump. The other one's just full on. It just looks like he's taking a leap into a lake or something. I don't know. It's a great picture. So I found these, and this is kind of what I'm talking about. I use the scribble technique, which I just looked at the pictures and barely looked at the paper I was drawing on and just started scribbling around, like going, okay, here's the body, and then, oh, there's the head, and then I kind of threw the eyes in there, and never lifting my pen from the page. And that's the other part, too, is I used a pen on this one, so that shows how much it doesn't matter how exact you are. You get the motion down. I did this a couple of times before I found one I liked. And it doesn't even have to be exact. See these giant hands there? That's not even what the other picture was like. So that's one method to do. So you do that for a picture, and as you can see here, compared to it, see that giant hand there? That's not really what he had going on, but I thought it looked kind of fun. So That's one method just to kind of quick sketch. So it's setting the stage. You choose a new picture subject. Think about a one-line description. This is kind of the way that I want you to test it out. Think of a one-line description and do that sketch drawing that I'm talking about. Draw leaving space for your description. That's part of the layout as well. If you're going to have text on the page, the text needs to be able to fit. So if you draw an image that's the whole size of the page, where are you going to put your text? So again, this is just one way to use storyboarding to help layout. So exactly what we're going to do is a one-panel story. That's going to be the homework. Here's one that I did of another frog. I figured I'd stay in the theme. And what I wrote down was a joke. What is a frog's favorite exercise? Jumping jacks. Wah wah. So that's that's all I did there. And I just kind of sketched out what I could remember from a frog, or what I thought one should look like. And what I can do later is clean that up. As you can see, it's a little off center here, but I know kind of how I want it to be displayed on the page. Here's another joke. I drew two toilets talking to each other. This is in that humor realm. I feel that my boys would have liked this when they were growing up. What did one toilet say to the other? You look a bit flushed. Ha! So that's just another way to sketch it out. And as you can see, I made it so that the word bubbles would be in between them instead of just putting the text underneath. It's just another way to try out different styles. And also it helps you draw the way a child sees. Look at, it just looks for the motion in what they do. And if you look at a child's drawing, like what details did they add and why? Have you ever looked at their drawings and it's like, why did they focus on that part? But it's always interesting. What did they leave out? Are you putting something in there that's unnecessary? When you draw, is it like, you think it doesn't look right, but you know, is it just because you're overthinking it? Maybe it should be a little simpler. Keeping it simple can sometimes make the finished drawing better. So just kind of keep that in mind while you're drawing. And also, exaggerated drawings express a whole line of text. So say while you've got your joke, like I did with the toilets. Well, I mean, toilets talking. That's kind of an exaggeration. One of the lids is going to be lifted up as if it's talking. Things like that. One thing that I've done to help me kind of simplify things more is it's a 3-minute to 30-second test. So here I've drawn a car. Now I set it for 3 minutes. Like these two here are, while they're not perfect, I just draw a car from memory. And I have 3 minutes to do it. And I keep going until the time runs out. So I keep adding more detail and I keep putting things in there that I think are important. Then here I had 2 minutes, so I had to do a little bit faster, and I already had in my mind like what was done before, and I drew that. Now it's a little bit more simplified. Some things were left out because I ran out of time. Then here I did less time. I think there was like maybe 40 seconds, so I had to draw it a little faster. Then I went down to 30 seconds, and I drew this, and here are the important things. You can still tell that it's a car. And for fun, I think I did this one at 10 seconds. So I drew a car really fast, and it still looks like a car. So things to consider when you're trying to simplify something. Maybe give yourself less and less time to draw it. And I find that method kind of gives me a new approach to how to do it. I actually really like the way that this card ended up, even though it's really, really simple. Did another method with a cat. So first I drew a cat like this, and then as I made the time go down, I realized like, oh, a cat would be more recognizable if it was arching its back like a Halloween cat. So I did more and more faster drawings like that. And then here is my 10-second drawing. And look at that. It's just a line, legs, a head, and a tail. And you can completely tell that that's a cat. So that's kind of a stylistic choice. And now I can build off of that. So just think of goofy things to draw. Try these techniques yourself. Maybe if you're making a character, draw the character the way you would, and then give yourself a time-lapse test and draw it faster and faster each time and see what you come up with in the end. Think about goofy things to write, things that you can use for subject matter. like I did with the joke book, just something to get you started, and draw pictures for those things that you write about. And just scribble. Don't worry about how it looks. We're not even doing anything that has to do with putting pages into your book yet. These are brainstorming the pages that are supposed to go into your book. Sometimes if your child says goofy stuff, kind of think about those and build a story off it later, like a funny thing they said, and like, I don't know, you can just different things to use for reference. I just think it's always good to have background stories as to, like, instead of a one-liner, like Calvin and Hobbes, the entire thing was built off of just crazy things that the kid said. So what I want to show you is, explain to you, is what we just looked at here. That's storyboarding. I didn't show you the way it's supposed to be laid out. We drew pictures, concepting a story on different pieces of paper, and that's what that is. That's storyboarding. That's at its simplest form. It's not even having to lay out everything on a page and structure it. That can be built on later. So you just learned how to storyboard. Major production companies use this all the time. So that's what you did. So the homework for this time is progress, not perfection. Draw some stuff, lay them out, scribble your pictures, and just get kind of used to what you're going to be building. If you don't have jokes, you can use the ones that I put in here today, and even just copy the stuff that I did and put them in your own style. Come up with 10 drawings that explain 10 of your own jokes, or you know, they don't have to be perfect, or maybe even just like one-liners that your kids say, but draw what was or explaining what they're saying. Take as many passes at it as you need. Nothing has to be perfect, but sometimes if you, when you draw something, you'll be like, oh, I could do that better. Well, do it again. It's just a sketch. These should not take you more than 2 to 3 minutes to draw, at most. And if you want to, post your favorites to the Facebook page to share with others, just to show kind of what you're doing, and you know, maybe we'll talk about your progress. Or if you have any questions, definitely post your questions to me, and I would be happy to explain or share my own thoughts with you. So that's it for today. I hope that was helpful. I hope that you're finding this interesting, and next time we'll probably be talking more about drawing the actual pages and maybe organizing these ideas into something that we can put together. I don't know. We'll see. If you have any questions, or actually if you want to know more about something else, or if, just tell me and we'll cover it. That's what I'm here for. I'm just kind of throwing the idea out there, and I really want to know what you'd like to learn. So thanks again, and hope to talk to you soon.